Clock Tower Rewind. I'm going to be honest, I didn't do the best of research on this game because I figured you would take it over quite a bit because I turned it on and I was like, okay.
Did you turn this on and you're like, why? Why are we? Yeah, why?
I did think of that when I pulled it up, and it's not because it's just not a game style that appeals to me. So I tried my best. I did a little bit. Yeah, I'll let you take over.
That's okay. That's all right. We're gonna take care of it right now. So honestly, you guys, I'll be honest with you guys. This may not be a game that everybody is super juiced about, but I think there is a core audience of people like myself that are really, really excited for this. And if you guys are just listening, the reason why Adam thought it was a little bit janky, you can go ahead and play the trailer.
Okay.
But the reason why Adam was a little bit like, I don't know if this is for me, is because if you're just listening, we're looking at the gameplay, and if you don't know anything about Clock Tower, it's a 2D like Super NES style.
Yeah, 16-bit game.
It's a 16-bit 2D game, which I understand why Adam is not super excited. So the reason why this is really exciting, and it is actually really exciting, is if you know a little bit about the history of Clock Tower, it becomes a little bit more intriguing. So Clock Tower was a game. The original game came out in 1995. And Clock Tower is one of those series, a lot like Final Fantasy, where the Clock Tower 1 that we know in the United States is not the actual Clock Tower 1 because this was originally released in Japan. A lot like Final Fantasy, like people here get Final Fantasy 3, and it's not actually Final Fantasy 3. It's like Final Fantasy 5 because of all the ones that have came out in Japan. But a little bit about the history here. So Clock Tower 1, the original game, released in 1995 on the Super Famicom, and that game only came out in Japan. It was later ported to Windows and the PS1, and it was known as Clock Tower: The First Fear, but that game still only came out in Japan. In that game, real quick, just synopsis, you play as Jennifer Simpson. She is searching for her way outside of this mansion, which we're seeing a lot of this footage in the trailer right now, while evading the bad guy of the game, who is known as Scissorman, essentially just this super evil dude walking around with like big scissors trying to kill you. Now, Clock Tower 2. This one was released on PlayStation, and this one is in Japan, Clock Tower 2, but to us in the United States, this was just known as Clock Tower. So this was the original Clock Tower 1 that we got in the United States, and this is the game that I got my hands on that got me into the Clock Tower series. That one, like I said, released on PlayStation. It was the first entry in the United States, and then after that, we start getting some different titles. Clock Tower Ghost Head came out in 1998. Clock Tower 3 gave up on kind of switching the names around, and it was just known as Clock Tower 3 throughout the entire world. But the reason why Clock Tower Rewind, this game that we're talking about right now, is so special is because this is a remake of the original Clock Tower game, the one that came out in 1995, that the people in the United States have never been able to play before, unless you got the Japanese import for the Super Famicom or some type of like fan-made recreation of the game. So that's a little bit about the story of Clock Tower and why this game is so appealing to me, because I loved getting this. Like, I got this game for the PlayStation. I loved it. It's the game that got me into the series, and I've always wanted to go back and play the game that was like the true number one, and never really got the chance until now.
Okay, so you kind of answered a lot of my questions because I realized I was trying to figure out, is this truly a new installment of the game or is it a remaster of the game? Now, so it's the original game from 1995, right?
Yes.
Is it remastered or are they just giving a port to the new consoles and everything? Do they actually make a lot of changes to it, or would you even know that because it's in like the Japanese version being brought over? What do you think?
Okay, so two things here. Very, very, very good questions. So, a little bit about the game. If you guys don't know anything about the game is basically a point and click survival horror game. And it's one of the earliest kind of it's like one of the earliest takes into the horror franchise and one that really kind of got me into horror, but it does have this like point and click aspect to it, which is really kind of interesting. And the thing that they're doing with this game that I think is super cool is that they're including two modes in the game. And one is going to be you can play the original mode where all of they've done they've kept the original like the original everything. They've just upgraded the graphics and improved a little bit of the jank because I will be honest with this point and click. I don't know if you guys are big point and click players, but sometimes with point and click games, it gets a little bit janky. And in a game like this, where you need to make decisions very quickly and you're like running away from people trying to kill you and stuff like that, the jank that comes along with that is sometimes super annoying. So they have two modes. One is going to be the original mode, like I said, where they just update the graphics, and then they improved a little bit of the drank. They call it quality of life improvements. And then they're also introducing the new rewind mode, which is why this is called rewind. And basically what they're going to do, they've done all the updates to the graphics, they've done the improvements to the jankiness of the game, but they've also added some like extras to it. So it's going to have like a little some like extra scenes and stuff like that, some extra aspects of the gameplay that aren't in the original game. They're saying that they've added that stuff because it kind of helps make more sense of the story. And if you ever played like a Super Nintendo RPG, like a lot of it is text based and stuff like that. So a lot of the story you kind of have to piece together yourself. They've added some extra stuff in there that's going to kind of help move the story along and make it like easier to understand for most people, but included both versions in the game. You're going to get their rewind version with that little bit of extras. And if you really just want to play the game the way it was originally came out, that's an option as well too.
Wondering how the rewind takes place. I wasn't sure if it was truly just we're rewinding back in time to remaster the game, but that makes a lot of sense. With that, does how does the combat work? With the do you actually fight the scissor man?
Okay, so here's the thing with the combat. There is no combat.
She just click and run away, or
Think of this a lot like Outlast. You know how in Outlast you don't have a weapon, you never fight?
right? But in the trailer, didn't she like push him or hit him a little bit, or is that you think that's like a little bit of a cutscene?
So those are like a little bit of like it's like the point and click aspects of the thing, right? So you don't have a weapon per se, right? Like it's not like you can choose to swing the bat and like hit him or something like that, but you can choose like, do you want to run or do you want to push over this bookshelf? You know what I mean? And if you do things like that, you can inflict damage on Scissor Man, but it's not like you have a weapon per se where you can just like stand ground and be like, I want to fight. You know what I mean?
I was like confused on how the elements of the point and click work, especially the way the game's kind of set up with the 2D linear story. And so playing it in the past, is this going to be more a? Is this going to be on? Oh, it says on PlayStation. So with the point and click, it's not a mouse. You just move your joystick and hit a button, and that's how it works. Or
I'm not sure how they're going to do it on this one, but on the traditional PlayStation games, you just used your thumbstick and like you had like it was essentially just a pointer and you would just move it around and highlight items. So I'm going to assume that it kind of goes the same way.
okay,
You know, I'm not the biggest PC player. This is probably going to be a game that like works way better on Steam. Yeah, but I mean, I still kind of want it on PlayStation, not going to lie.
you buy everything on PlayStation, which is cool, and I'm starting to buy a lot of stuff on PlayStation. I don't know. I don't think the game is necessarily like I didn't have anything negative to say about it, especially because like you said, it's a remaster of an old game. They're adding new elements to make it more consumable for the more modernized gamer or who wouldn't really quite understand the original Japanese version. But I think it's cool. I just again the game style isn't my type of thing, and it's almost a little confusing the way they're mixing this like anime comic style to it to this 16-bit like gameplay, if that makes sense. I felt like that didn't quite fit, if that makes sense, but I think with pushing the narrative of the story, it makes more sense.
I get that. And like, I totally understand, man. This game is not for everybody. I definitely know that. But I think there is you know, there's definitely a fan base that's been kind of hoping that they would do something like this. And I'm definitely one of them. And I don't know. I think like like you said, maybe those animated comics. So like that's one of the things that they're adding. As if you don't know, they're adding like an animated intro. They have motion comics to kind of help move the story along. Another thing that's really cool, multiple endings. So this game's gonna get a lot of replay value. And the one thing that I really enjoyed about this was randomized gameplay elements. This is perfect for this type of genre, right? Because if you think about scary games, like think about Outlast, right? The game was probably scary the first time you play it, but in Outlast, the first time you get to the top of that hallway, like you're gonna squeeze through that crevice, and that dude's gonna push you down to the bottom. You know what I mean? Like that's coming, so you're not scared anymore. This it kind of like randomizes that a little bit, and Scissorman's gonna pop up in weird spots, and it's you're never really gonna have that like sense of like safety that you get when you've played a horror game more than one time because you feel like you know what's gonna happen.
And I think with Outlast, kind of off that point, Outlast had a problem of having scary music as soon as that guy was gonna come. Like the big guy, like the first couple times they didn't play it, but towards the middle and the end, like he'd pop up, like the music would go dark, or you could start to hear him more. I'm like, okay, so now I know this guy's coming, and it like got less scary because the way to get around him is literally run right at him and then run to the side, and he like never hit you. So I was like, okay, this isn't scary anymore.
What did you call it in your stream?
Ooh, juke him.
Yeah, you just hit him with the ooh juke him.
Yeah, I did that. Like I played it in college before I even streamed it before, but I was like, "Ooh, gotta hit him with the ooh juke him," and I like run at him and sidestep. But yeah, I definitely get that. It makes it more keeps you on edge. I know this is, and to me, I like these 16-bit, 8-bit, or like this kind of style of like horror game. It's hard for me to get scared if that makes sense. Like the style of the game doesn't really scare me, but I think it'll keep you more on the edge of your seat knowing that you're not sure what's coming up. I don't think it's truly going to make anybody scared, but like you said, like I'm saying like again a lot. I hate doing that. But anyways, it keeps you more on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's coming
I
next.
think they do a really good job at like obviously knowing that the 16-bit is kind of like difficult to make things actually scary just because of like the gameplay style. 16-bit is just always so kind of, for lack of better words, like cute and campy, so it's hard to make it kind of scary, but they do, like you said, they do leave you on the edge of your seat. I mean, you will get some jump scare moments out of this, even though it's 16-bit. Like you will have that tense like feeling. You will have a lot of excitement when you're trying to run away from Scissorman and he's chasing you. I mean, you're gonna get that adrenaline rush. And one thing that they really did to kind of like ensure that that happens is when you hit a lot of these tense moments, your character enters what's called panic mode, and in panic mode, they're a lot harder to control. It's a lot harder to make them like do the things that you want to do, and because it's a point and click, right? It's like you tell your character run through this door and then you don't have any control over them anymore as they're running through the door. But when you're in panic mode, your character is more prone to like falling and making mistakes and stuff like that. So you could say run through that door and she's going to start running, but you have no control over the character and she might just fall down.
And you have to point again to get her to stand up again.
Yeah, then you have to be like, get up, run to the door. You know what I mean? So like, it keeps everything moving, and I think it introduces an element that's going to keep you tense because even if you say run to the door, it might not happen.
I don't have much else to say on it, but I'm glad you're getting a game like this that you've been wanting or you've been longing for. The original Japanese version converted over to the United States. So that's really cool and I'm excited for you.
I'm super excited for it. And guys, if you don't know too much about the game, like I said, it is a point and click and you are running away from Scissorman, but there's also like a really cool puzzle aspect to this game too, where it's not so much just endlessly running, endlessly trying to run away from this person. There is a story, there is a narrative. You are stuck in this mansion. Your goal is obviously to get out of this mansion. And there's things that you need to solve. This mansion is not a typical mansion. It's full of secrets. It's full of trapdoors. It's full of puzzles to solve. Pull the book off the wall. Pull the candle from the chandelier. Hit this button underneath the staircase. Like there's a lot of really cool puzzle aspects to it where you're going to be solving puzzles, finding clues and stuff along the way, and then as you're doing that, you're also being chased. So there's a lot going on, and it keeps your interest, and I think it's a really good story, and I'm super super excited that I'm finally going to get to play this game.
Are these games very long either? Are they pretty short?
So the very first game that I played was Clock Tower 2, the first one that we got. A few hours,
Oh, okay, nothing crazy.
nothing crazy, but you know, you have to think about it too. Like this came out on Super Famicom, so like I would say you know, maybe this is like a 3 to 4 hour at best, I would say.
And then plus the replay value that you can get with the different endings and things like that. So that'll help a lot. And the extra elements that they're adding will also add to the length of the game. But I was just curious. No negatives to say about it. I was just wondering if how long the games are now and back then. So
Guys, check it out. I think it's gonna be super fun. If you guys are, you know, if you guys are fans of the original Clock Tower, this is your chance to play something really, really cool. Even if you're not, if you're a fan of retro or a fan of horror or something, check this out. As of right now, I'm not really 100% sure where to get it. I'm actually super kind of bummed about this, but this game's being released through limited run. If you want a physical version, and it's actually sold out right now. So
wow, interesting.
yeah, limited run does this weird thing where they like open up pre-orders, and then based on the number of pre-orders, that's how much they manufacture.
Okay,
So I didn't hear about this game until late, and I missed the pre-order on it. But unfortunately, limited run it is sold out now. It is on Steam as well. Limited run, it's $34.99, but that's for a physical.
right.
So I would assume on Steam probably somewhere around the $20 range, $25 range,
It's probably
maybe.
the same price. It's
You think
like
it's the
this.
same price?
Yeah, you think about these big AAA games that like Call of Duty is 69.99 on digital, and it's also 69.99 in store. Like
Yeah, but this is limited run though, so this isn't like a big AAA. I think they might be a little more lenient.
I'll be surprised if they are, to be honest. But we shall see because I don't think they save. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna be the same price. But I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong. Limited run, prove me wrong, make it cheaper online.
Make it cheaper online. I feel like they got to. Or it's $34.99, in which case I would still buy it.